You had me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello.
Hi, everybody. 5 o'clock on a Friday. Time for Cello Chat. Always look forward to this time. And with me this week, I could not be more thrilled to have Dr. Shu-Yi Scott. How are you doing today, Shu-Yi?
Very well, very well. Thank you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to have a nice chat with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Always look forward to visiting with you. So let's start with your musical background. How did you get started, and how has your path taken to where you are today?
Yeah. So my name is Shu-Yi Huang originally before I got married with a Texan bass player, last name Scott. So I guess I completed my primary education in Taiwan. That's where I'm originally from. And went to Penn State because I got a full scholarship to get a master's in music. And I was in already cello performance major. And Dr. Kim Cook at Penn State offered me a TA-ship there. After that, actually it was Kim Cook handed me a yellow cover book. It says playing string game. And that's where I heard about Phyllis Young. So next, I was ready to apply for my DMA. I came to UT Austin, and that's where Phyllis Young gave me also another full scholarship. The only and big reason why I came all the way to Texas, via Pennsylvania from Taiwan. So when I was in Taiwan, I was already mainly studying cello. I think even at the age, I think it was 6th grade. That was a music magnet school. So yeah, I've been playing cello for most of my life, and now I'm still playing and loving doing it. So yeah, I feel very lucky to be doing that. That's my main background.
And now, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so at UT Austin, I got the great opportunity to teach and learn to teach at UT String Project, and that's where I met my husband, and that's why I ended up staying here and raising my family up to this point. I'm still in Austin, Texas.
And now, in addition to your studio, you also do Suzuki teacher training. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of your current vocation?
Sure. So I have a cello studio. I've been teaching cello privately. That's what I love doing, and I'm very passionate about advocating the possibility to start your own business and have run your own string studio wherever you would like to live. It's been really successful since I finished my DMA, my doctor's degree at UT Austin. So the idea to start Suzuki Training started around when my first child was really little. Even though I did a lot of training and I learned so much from teaching at String Project and also, of course, learned so much from working with Miss Young. In terms of learning how to understand very young children, how they can learn music and how they perceive music, I decided to start taking the Suzuki training when my first one was really young. So pretty much it was kind of like an experiment on the job, I was a cello mom and trying to understand, learning all the experiences and the knowledge from the Suzuki cello training, how I could build a nurturing environment for my child to learn and enjoy, mostly enjoy playing cello, through playing cello, to enjoy music in a more natural environment. So that was my first motivation. And it was so interesting that I just didn't stop. I just continued to take the book training from pre-twinkle, and before that we have Every Child Can philosophy, and took every book training, every unit training, and each summer when I had time, when I could find a babysitter, or my mother or relatives came to help me with my kids, I got to do this deep training, and I would say that was really, really helpful and very eye-opening. After finishing all the book training courses, I also finished the required courses, the more philosophy courses, in order to apply to be a Suzuki cello teacher trainer. So in 2019, I was approved to be a trainer.
Excellent. Shu-Yi, I don't know if I know this. What drew you to cello in the first place?
What drew I? Well, the first was flute. I wanted to take flute. This was back in Taiwan, Taipei, at a public elementary school, when the government had the funding in public schools to provide a very affordable music instrumental lessons for young kids. And I wanted to take flute, but I was there late. And so the line for the flute was way too long. And the orchestra director said, well, here's an instrument. Nobody's in line for that one. And it's this big box laying down on the ground, sitting there alone. And that's where I heard, what a cello is. So I didn't start young. And I was 10. I was 10 already. But before that, I had been taking piano, since I was 6 or 7. So at 10, instead of flute, I was given a cello. And, at first I thought, well, it's a little bulky, but I really grew to love it. Every year I worked on it harder and harder. And I would say the higher degree I got, the more I loved this beautiful instrument.
Yes. Well, that's as good of a segue as any to talk a little bit about motivation. And don't feel like you have to try to limit your thoughts on motivating students to play, to practice, be as wide-ranging as you care to. Because I know as you do, teach students from as young as 3, and then that kind of that 3 to 8 with the attention span, and then there's kind of that middle school age, and then there's the teenage challenges, and you teach adults as well. But even on your website, so for people who don't know you personally, the motivating of people to want to do this wonderful thing of music making, specifically through cello playing, is definitely something that is regularly on your mind. So if you'd share some of your favorite thoughts about ways to just keep people really excited about practicing and playing.
Yes. Motivation is definitely a big, interesting topic and something I talked about a lot, because I think as a musician, we tend to think that we know a lot about an instrument when we are given the opportunity to teach. So very, very easily as a teacher, we put ourselves in the knowing a lot position to the other position is the student who knows nothing. So if the first play field is positioned in this way, teachers tend to give a lot of information to the student, and thinking that the students know nothing, they know zero, so they should appreciate that we're giving them a lot. I have, as you, I see you're smiling, as we all know, as to experienced teachers, we know this kind of thinking, one way in communication and one way in information sharing really doesn't sustain. Because I have come to this conclusion that when we teach, we are communicating, and when we are communicating means there should be two ways of sharing. And so for me, motivation means that I understand how much information the student will be interested in learning. I first need to know that how much the student is interested in learning. If we give too much, then they can turn off their antenna and not wanting to be in this game anymore. The other thing is space. How much space should we give the student? If a student is more than willing to share what they know, we should give them a space to let them share what they know. Even if a teacher think that the student knows not that much, but it is very important that we give them the space to say, oh, I know this much about cello. There are 4 strings, or maybe 5. Maybe there are 2 heads or something. But giving them the idea, the space and the opportunity to let us know what they know is, first, we're celebrating and acknowledging this person's individuality here. So I think once a student feels that they've been given a place and being given the opportunity to celebrate, wow, even though I'm a student and I don't know much yet, but my idea and my discovery so far to this point of meeting you, my teacher, is worth celebrating, it's worth knowing. And I think that's when, as a human being, we all want to be recognized, right? And it doesn't matter we know less or more. We are individual. So each individual is, I think, worth given the equal space and equal amount of time. So as a teacher, we understand this first, and then having this more kind of a thoughtful mindset before we, something I call design our instruction for each private lesson. Then our private lesson I always like it to be a place where the student gets to shine through learning cello. Like learning cello, the craft and skills are important, but this craft and skills, we put it this way, it's kind of like playing Legos with a younger person, but it's just replacing Lego with cello. Here's a bow, and how do you think can be handled to make a beautiful sound? So I like to have that kind of more of a equal field place that the students feel very comfortable to have a conversation. From what they know, then we can pick up the vocabularies or the games they love or the ideas they are into, using those vocabularies they're familiar with to explain and share my idea to them. I think that's actually more effective, more efficient, and will directly tie to their motivation, because I feel they're always recognized as a very special one in the lesson. So that also says a lot that it's not as easy as a teacher, because we can't just think about teaching every student, a 3-year-old beginner and the 13-year-old beginner. We can't teach them the same way, because there was the age gap, the background gap difference, and different amount of life experience. Even though they're both beginners, I will be teaching them very, very differently. I will be, tailor the instruction design towards them individually. I think that's the thrilling part of being a music teacher.
Excellent. Outstanding. All right. Well, I also want to ask you about how the Suzuki, all the Suzuki training that you have had, how that informs what was your previous more traditional training in Pennsylvania and Texas, and just kind of how you fuse those regularly within your teaching.
Yeah, I would say, as a educator, the Suzuki teacher training part, it is so invaluable in shaping all my skills for teaching. So for some of your younger viewers, or college or pre-college students viewers, this might be something you can think about and consider. If you think that you would like some more, learn some teaching experiences or knowledge about how to teach very young children cello, Suzuki teacher training courses are really, really beneficial. To share my background, I think with Penn State and UT Austin, these are really, really wonderful traditional training foundation to help me shaping my my professional, how to be a cellist ability. And of course, all these trainings and also the experience in teaching as UT String Project for 3 years, these experience and knowledges and watching all the other graduate students teaching the young kids all helped me so much, in terms of how to design and plan my own lesson plans. Remember our lesson plan weekly meeting, and also just discussing with the directors, with our just our lesson plans and instructions. And also during UT Austin time, I studied with Bob Duke, and learning so much knowledge, the scientific knowledge about human learning and music education, that gave me a really, really solid foundation as far as in terms of analyzing a student's progress and long-term planning, short-term planning, all that. But Suzuki teacher training per se, the body of knowledge itself provides the direct face-to-face accumulated knowledge of all these many private Suzuki cello teachers, what worked and what not. All this trial and error, the actual teaching tips, that what works for very young children, especially. How do you get the ability to communicate with a 2-year-old, with the 3-year-olds, and really be there with them, and that you become their sort of like a play date, when you first have your cello lesson, and how do you get that ability to communicate with them and make them feel comfortable, make them feel that you're one of their friends, and it's just so thrilling to have the keys to these usually mind-boggling situation, like, oh, how can I make a 3-year-old listen to me and hold the bow like this, right? But that is the main great part. The treasure of Suzuki training is that there already has this well-organized and systemized knowledge about how to go about teaching very young one by rote first. And so you're using what a young child, the most natural way to learn things is the mother tongue approach, is how they learn their first language from their environment, from their parents, from the relatives, from people around them, from the surrounding. You fill it up with beautiful cello music, and then things will go along more naturally. So that's definitely something I feel like it helped mend the questions I had, after becoming a studio teachers for a little while. So I would say it's a very nice balance with my, the Suzuki training is a nice balance with my formal training.
And I would say we were both set up well along those lines, for example, with our study with Phyllis Young in terms of the thinking in terms of imagery, and you use the word natural a lot, which is, just rather than try to build something from scratch, to take existing knowledge or something that, just think like, well, I know how to do that already. Well, that's the same. We're just applying it in a different way. So along those lines, for example, I'm curious if we can take a specific case. I like you have a lot on your website, and the videos that you have on YouTube, you have a lot of examples of how you teach very naturally. One of the things I wonder, for example, is when you take a very young child and you teach them a bow hold, so sometimes with vibrato, we're watching for particular things to tell us, okay, this student is probably ready for vibrato now. When do you, for example, start drawing the student's attention kind of less about the bow hold and more about the point of contact with the string? Or is that a continuous process?
Well, yes. So when you look at, when you teach, there's always a short-term, mid-term, and the long-term process. Some of the playing techniques, you can see it a lot quicker than the other. Bow hold is definitely something, it's a long process. Sometimes they will be better. Sometimes they will, get very, very flexible. And sometimes they will suddenly get, kind of stiff. And then you're not sure what's going on. You've been holding the bow for 6 months. It's really good. And, what's not working now. So one clear example of why Suzuki training has been really good for a practical reason. Dr. Suzuki recognized that for very young children, you can start with Werner, that kind of German beginning, a whole bow at the beginning, and just play right away, because the traditional cello or violin, I should say, the very traditional Germanic or French style, we start with whole bow because the beginners were never this young. Right. Usually in the last centuries, they have finished some formal, maybe keyboard education, or most likely already finished some choir singing. Pupils already learned how to read music. And physically, they're, probably big enough to hold a full-size cello. I'm not sure when they start building the fractional cellos. I don't think it's a very old thing, right? But when we want to teach young kids, Dr. Suzuki recognized that they can only handle this little bow and this little area where if you teach them go and stop, it makes a clear, very nice natural control without tension, without stiffness, but without any stiffness. But it's already naturally balanced. So you start from very little bow and gradually expand to a bigger bow. That actually increased the successful rate of maintaining your bow hold. And I think this, this revolutionary point of discovery definitely impacted so many modern string pedagogy books now. So you see essential elements and, most other modern string orchestra curriculums all start with short bow now. And it's now not a whole bow, right? Not WB anymore. So when do I know this will work? Is usually if a student come in, they pick up the bow and without any prompts, without any suggestion or reminder, they're able to set up, with their own will, with their own natural approach. They go there and they start playing it with a nice, balanced and ringing tone. Then I know that the boho is ready to be given another level of challenge. There are two or three steps that I will go through. Kind of my tactics is number one, are they able to play with a good boho without looking at their right hand or look away? Or are they able to, actually, this is one of Miss Young's, my long approved tip is, can you stand up and sit down and play right away? Right? Remember the Jack in the Box? So I use Jack in the Box all the time. Is every time, you learn a new song, okay, you just learned staccato on this song. Can you stand up and sit down right away and play with that well-balanced bow hold? So there are different ways. Now I call that the interruptive practice. Is can you go get a cup of water and come back and right away you can play this piece or this phrase or this bowing or this shift or this vibrato. Just that one challenge, can you do it right away out of blue? That's kind of the tip I use as a exiting a place.
Nice. Now tell about this project to make a series of videos with Merlin Thompson.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so Dr. Merlin Thompson is a long-term Suzuki piano teacher trainer, and he actually studied with Dr. Suzuki directly. So our podcast about music teaching is stemmed from the lockdown. During the lockdown, during the pandemic, we were all like pondering what we should do to help our music teacher community thrive and keep everybody encouraged to go. So from our weekly chats, one day I said, why don't we make this shareable? Let's share our conversation with the music teachers. Maybe some viewers will want to share the ideas or and get benefit from this. But one thing that Dr. Thompson shared that influenced me so much is the common sharing a curriculum. His idea is that similar to what I said at the beginning of our interview, our chat, is that we should never view students as the receiver only. If we give the student the equal respect as if we give any other human being, when our learners feel they're respected, they will want to share what they know, how they feel. The more they share how they feel, the more they will feel safe to let us know, I don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Right? And so when my students are willing to say, what do you mean that I need to relax? Because usually it will say, relax your hands or you have a good bow hold. And more and more young kids nowadays will say, I am relaxed. And you try to bend their fingers and they're not relaxed, right? So I think there is this gap of understanding between the teacher and the student that if we always remember to step back and ask, do you understand? Or are you comfortable to talk about what you see and what you don't see or what you know and you don't know? Then we're letting that communication become more neutral and not so much of a top-down traffic from the teacher. And I think the more we make it a two-way balanced fair game with the students or with your whatever, even college level classes, the more you feel there's a conversation going on, I think it's always better.
All right. I imagine that approach also helped you to more quickly feel comfortable as a teacher trainer and a parent trainer, because they don't have to feel like, oh, now we're setting up a relationship in which you are the master and they are the
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So during the pandemic, besides creating the podcast with Mr. Dr. Thompson, I also sporadically offered some Zoom discussions with some are Chinese American parents or homeschool communities of parents who want to help their kids enjoy their music lessons but don't know how. And I found that I have the privilege of having this multicultural background in my upbringing. It helps me to understand why some of the Asian parents struggle so much to help their kids understand that learning music is great, that going to a cello or violin lesson is not so dreadful. So I think I feel the duty and the privilege to help more parents understand their children in this multicultural background, and also for teachers, especially young teachers who they might have a hard time understanding why some parents talk this way, why some students are so motivated. But when they bring me their cases and I can, have a kind of a third eye or a bird's eye view to help them, there's this and that, and there's other possibilities you can shape this. There's other curriculum you can try to go around, and I understand that your teaching point is this, your purpose is to deliver this happy ending for learning. But if the parent or the student don't see that yet, here might be the blinds that you need to unveil first. So having this kind of conversation, this kind of coaching, was some new thing I discovered during the pandemic that I found really thrilling to have and to keep going.
Interesting. Now, Dr. Scott, you also had some thoughts about where we're going, where the profession is headed. What are your thoughts along those lines?
Right. So I really like that we got to reconnect a few years ago when when you started talking about bringing back Phyllis Young's legacy, and it's really great to be back to as a part of ASTA, as part of other major music teacher association and groups and organizations. The pandemic is a big impact, and with the downturn of finance, I'm sure a lot of classical music organizations are suffering. And as a studio teacher, I feel like I am the workforce at the front line of classical music. How do we continue to let ordinary parents, especially families who don't know much about classical music, families who don't know how to appreciate classical music, to again recognize how important classical music learning or appreciation can bring to their children, and can largely, tremendously enrich their children's life, their childhood, and even the whole family lifestyle can be benefit from having beautiful music. So I always feel like besides teaching lessons is my living, I also always feel I'm an ambassador of bringing classical music, bringing beautiful cello music to each family. And it's not about finding the next Yo-Yo Ma. It's about finding the Yo-Yo Ma at that child's level. So actually, some of my students have special condition in their learning, And the important thing is that we don't put one standard to our students, but bring the best out of each student and let them first-handedly, because whereas as a studio teacher, I can help my student experience that is the beauty of classical music, the success, the ultimate joy of making music together with me on the cello, with me on the piano, or as a group in my studio. When you have cello choir, just like when we were at UT playing beautiful cello choir music with Phyllis Young, I'm trying to, and have been trying to duplicate that in different individual students' family. And I think if we can, propagate this more and more, this will help from ground up to strengthen the classical music society. And so this is kind of how I look at it. Maybe I'm trying to make my little role as a studio teacher a little bit more important than I think. But thinking this way helps me go on and helps me feel motivated to keep going. And also it helps me to see more possibilities. What can I do?
Right.
How can I make more interesting? How can I bring more joy to my teaching for myself and for my student?
Yes, that approach is certainly going to lead to more good than the reverse of trying to think that, oh, the solution lies elsewhere. You look at what you could do. I like that.
Mm.
And that is I think a great note to end on. People are surely extremely inspired now in hopefully both the short term and the long term. And now they can follow it up with a weekend of very, very productive practice. And then we will see them this same time next week. Thanks so much, Shu-Yi. It's always great talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Beautiful. Thanks very much.
Take care, everybody.